Every center had a goal for how many abortions were done. And centers that didn't do abortions, like mine that were family planning clinics, had a goal for the number of abortion referrals. We would have things like pizza parties. Occasionally they would say you can have 2 hours of PTO. If your center consistently hit goal and you were green all the time, you know, like 3 months in a row, you might be center manager of the month.
I felt like I was more of a salesman sometimes to sell abortions. And we were told on a regular basis that you have a quota to meet to keep this clinic open.
Joining me now from the communications director for Susan B. Anthony List, Mallory Quigley. Mallory, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
All right, Mallory, let's start with this question of the day today. I mean, this video from Lila Rose is quite shocking. But Mallory, even if you identify as pro-choice, even if you think abortion is personally a tragedy, but you believe it should still be legal for women to make that own choice, now that we've seen this video, now that we know for a fact Planned Parenthood rewards their clinics for meeting these quotas of abortions, is that too far, even for liberals?
I think absolutely. And what's certainly too far is that American taxpayers are funding Planned Parenthood at a rate of $1.5 million a day. And you know, this testimony from these former Planned Parenthood workers, it really jives with what we know from Planned Parenthood's own annual reports. You take a look at the 3 ways you can respond to a pregnancy: abortion, adoption, or choosing to bring that child into life and giving the woman prenatal care. If you look at Planned Parenthood's own numbers, 9 times out of 10, a pregnant woman walks into Planned Parenthood, she walks out having been sold an abortion. And that's just clearly, it's a bias on their part. They are just truly a profit-driven, abortion-centered business, and they're not in the business of offering women all the choices available to them. They want to sell abortions, and that's too far for just the general debate, and it's certainly too far for taxpayers to be funding it.
Right, I think it brings up an interesting ethics question too, because they call themselves they consider themselves to be part of the healthcare industry. I of course disagree with that. I don't think abortion is healthcare, but given that they do think that they're in the healthcare industry, it brings up a very serious ethics concern, because I don't think that doctors and healthcare professionals are supposed to sell a product to a patient just to make the money off of it. They have an ethical obligation, a moral obligation even, to make sure that what they're recommending to the patient is best for the patient's health here. And when you get into admitting starkly, like we saw these former clinic managers from Planned Parenthood do, that they're told to sell abortion, that there are incentive programs to help them hit these high numbers of abortion. I mean, like I said, putting your opinion on abortion itself aside, I think that's a serious ethics concern.
Absolutely. I mean, but they're clearly not in the business of being a trusted healthcare provider for women and girls. They offer one thing, and that's abortion. You take a look at their annual reports. You take a look at this testimony from former women that have worked there. It's not just these two. Abby Johnson, Catherine Adair, there's a slew of whistleblowers that have come forward and said that they, Planned Parenthood is involved in the words of one former nurse in Delaware, a meat market style of assembly line abortions. That's all that they're about. And certainly it is a violation of ethics to be pushing the service that is going to be more lucrative for you. We had a recent report come out from our research arm, the Charlotte Lozier Institute, that found millions of dollars in potential fraudulent overbilling. Planned Parenthood is not it's not a good organization for women and girls or for taxpayers.
Right, and I think that's the crux of the matter here too is, well, first of all, politically, most people, even if they identify as pro-abortion, most people think that late-term abortion should be illegal. Most people, a majority of Americans, think that abortion is immoral, whether or not they think it should be legal here. And so politically, I guess my question is, are mainstream liberals, even if they identify as pro-abortion, are they comfortable with the idea of abortion as a business, not abortion as a last resort?
Yeah, I don't think they are. And I think when you take a look, Roger Morris University had a really great poll that came out in December, and it was the first poll, only poll, to actually ask about the actual Republican proposal that's on the table right now to reroute Planned Parenthood's taxpayer funding to comprehensive whole woman healthcare centers and found that 53% of Americans support that across all demographics. And so that right there shows that when people understand that Planned Parenthood is an abortion business, regardless of whether they consider themselves pro-life, pro-choice, pro-abortion, what have you, they want to see those taxpayer dollars gone elsewhere, places where women can get real comprehensive whole woman care, all the preventative services that Planned Parenthood claims to offer, plus more. Women need more than what Planned Parenthood can provide. We're more than just our reproductive systems. And so
right,
that's what
I
we're
think
hoping
they
to
just
see
deserve
Congress move forward
more.
on.
They deserve more than to be the victims,
Absolutely.
to be the targets of the salespeople who are just trying to sell them abortion here. I'll take it one step further with the polls thing. There was a Knights of Columbus Marist poll that found that 2/3, 66% of the American people do not want their tax money to be funding Planned Parenthood. Again, regardless of their beliefs about abortion. But Mallory, critics would say, this is going back to your point for a second, critics would say that without Planned Parenthood, women won't have anywhere to go, that there are some areas that Planned Parenthood is their only option for reproductive health care, that if we take taxpayer money away from Planned Parenthood clinics are forced to close, and women would have no other options.
That's simply not true. There are 13,000 federally qualified rural and community health centers across this country. They outnumber Planned Parenthood's 20-1. And if you go to getyourcare.org and put in your address, it will bring up the nearest of one of these centers that is closest to you. And these are places that are offering preventative services. We did research, we crunched the numbers and found that if you send the Medicaid dollars that Planned Parenthood would be receiving to the community health centers, that these clinics would really only be taking on 2 additional preventative care clients per week. So we certainly think that this is manageable, and Planned Parenthood is just revealing itself more and more each day to really only be in the business of abortion, and that's not what women need. It's not healthcare, like you said, and they're not a true healthcare provider.
Right, and we know they do have a lot of political money. They have a lot of political backing going into their cause right now. A lot of Democrats have hitched their wagon to Planned Parenthood, particularly female politicians here. This is going to be a fight that we're going to see. They're going to fight tooth and nail, but realistically, Mallory, do you see under the Trump administration, under the Republican Congress and Senate, do you see in the next 4 years Planned Parenthood being defunded?
I absolutely do. You know, we got a bill on President Obama's desk last year that actually defunded Planned Parenthood for a year using the budget reconciliation process. And Congress has already started the process of doing that again this year. And President Trump has pledged during the campaign, he wrote a letter to pro-life leaders saying that he supported the redirecting of Planned Parenthood's funds to these comprehensive health care centers because he believes in funding women's health, not abortion. And so I do think we have a very, very good chance of making this a reality. And this has just been a huge goal, not only of the pro-life movement, but I think for everyone who values just authentic women's health care. That is what is going to win here if Planned Parenthood is defunded.
Right, because the Planned Parenthood brand at this point, I think, has pretty much been tarnished. Again, I've said this 100 times in this segment, but regardless of your opinion on abortion, the brand itself has been tarnished. We know they're out for profit. We know that they've done unethical things. We know that they've sold aborted baby body parts, which is in violation of federal law. I mean, I think most people, as we see from this poll, most people think that our money, our hard-earned money, should not be going to them anymore. Mallory, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was great to talk to you.